Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're unveiling the secrets of a giant £6 trillion pension Ponzi scheme in the UK. This is about unfunded state and public sector pensions, and trust me, it's a topic that's as daunting as it sounds. The unfunded reality. So, what exactly is going on? The UK's pension system, particularly for the state and public sectors, operates without actual savings, meaning there's no pension pot. Current pensions are paid out from this year's government revenue, essentially from taxpayers' money. According to a 2023 report by the Institute for Fiscal Studies, the UK's official government debt is around 100% of GDP. But when we factor in unfunded pension liabilities, this figure explodes to more than 400% of GDP. It's a massive burden that future generations will inherit. According to the Office of National Statistics, the unfunded state pension liabilities are £4.8 trillion, which is 224% of GDP, and the unfunded public sector pension liabilities are £1.2 trillion, which is 55% of the GDP. These figures do not come on the national accounts when we calculate government debt to GDP, as these are future liabilities. According to the Taxpayers Alliance, the UK's real national debt is much higher than suggested by budget figures, at £12.1 trillion in 2024 to 25. This is over £180,000 per person. The total debt, which includes PFI and pension liabilities, is more than 4 times the size of the UK economy. The real national debt has grown from £9.6 trillion, or £143,000 per person since 2021. This is an increase of 25%. And as the population ages, the situation worsens. Projections indicate that by 2050, there will be 25% more pensioners than there are today. This demographic shift is expected to raise pension costs by 1.2% of national income, about £32 billion per year in today's terms. Now, why call it a Ponzi scheme? Much like a Ponzi scheme where returns for older investors are paid from the contributions of new investors, the UK pension system uses the taxes of the current workforce to pay for current retirees, with no real investment or savings mechanism. And as the population ages, in 2050 about 30% of the UK population will be above 65, there are fewer working-age people paying taxes to support the pensions liabilities of a larger proportion of retirees. This is where the Ponzi scheme will collapse. Understanding the new state pension, NSP. In 2016, the UK underwent a monumental shift in its pension system with the introduction of the new state pension. This change moved the UK from an earnings related to a flat-rate system, a move recommended by the Pensions Commission in the early 2000s. This new system aimed to simplify pensions, making them more predictable and easier to understand for everyone. The NSP isn't reduced based on other income or wealth. It's based purely on your national insurance contributions and credits, which you can accumulate through employment, certain life circumstances like unemployment or caregiving, or by making voluntary contributions. You need a minimum of 10 qualifying years to receive any pension and 35 years to receive the full pension. Importantly, since 2016, the NSP is increased every April by the highest of average earnings growth, inflation, or 2.5%, thanks to the triple lock mechanism. This system ensures that the pension value increases faster than earnings whenever earnings growth is lower than inflation, or 2.5%. Essentially, it protects pensioners during economic downturns, but also leads to higher costs. So, how does pensions impact national spending? Pension spending has significantly changed over the decades. From about 2% of national income in 1948 to 49, it rose to just below 5% today. Additional pensioner benefits like pension credit and winter fuel payments have become less significant over time, particularly as more people qualify for the full NSP, reducing their reliance on means-tested support. For 2024 to 25, spending is forecasted to hit 5.3% of national income, the highest ever, highlighting the growing challenge of sustaining pension funding as the population ages. Let's dive into how the new state pension is impacting different households. Starting with couples, most are comfortably above the relative income poverty threshold, thanks to two NSBs and any means-tested benefits they qualify for. This is especially true for owner-occupiers, the most common group among couples in their late 60s, who find their incomes more than 20% above this threshold. However, the scenario is quite different for single-person households and pensioners who are renting. Both single owner-occupiers and renters often find their incomes just below the poverty line. Particularly, single private renters face more significant challenges, with some regions seeing incomes fall below 90% of the poverty threshold. These disparities are largely driven by the freezing of local housing allowance rates since April 2020, which hasn't kept up with rising private rent costs. Fortunately, the Chancellor announced an end to this freeze starting April 2024, aligning housing benefits with 30th percentile market rents. Currently, only a small percentage of current 66 to 70-year-olds are single private renters. But as the proportion of people owning homes falls due to rising house prices, more people will be renting after retirement, and this will significantly impact future housing benefit needs and pensioner poverty. As the population ages, more individuals find themselves in single-person households, particularly women from lower-income backgrounds, due to higher mortality rates of men in poorer households. While the NSP and benefits keep most above the poverty line, many struggle to build savings for unexpected expenses. Moreover, the current 18% poverty rate among pensioners reflects limitations in the system, such as eligibility issues and low take-up rates for means-tested benefits. Demographic changes. The age structure of the UK population is projected to change substantially over the next few decades. The share of the adult population aged 65 or above was relatively flat, between 21% and 22%, for the period 1977 to 2012, but rose from 22% to 24% between 2012 and 2020, and is projected to rise to 31% by 2050. Despite this rising share of the population aged 65 and over, the share of people above the state pension age has so far remained remarkably constant because of the large increases in the state pension age for women since 2010, changed from 60 to 65. However, despite further increases in the state pension age to 67 by 2028 and 68 by 2046 for both men and women, already legislated, the fraction of people above state pension age is currently projected to increase from 24% in 2023 to 27% in 2050. Together with population growth, this means that by 2050 the number of individuals above the state pension age will be 25% higher than today. Comparing the UK with other OECD countries, we are in a better position though. The chart compares the old age dependency ratios, the number of people aged 65 and over per 100 people aged 20 to 64 in 2023, and projections for 2050 for the same selected countries. On this measure, the UK's old age dependency ratio is currently relatively favorable. While it is projected to rise substantially from 34% to 47% over the period, this would still mean that the UK's old age dependency ratio in 2050 is lower than for many other countries at that point. For example, France is expected to reach an old age dependency ratio of 55% by 2050. It is 58% for Germany and between 70% to 80% for Italy and Spain. Over the years, the EU will face significant challenges due to this. This is why the European elites want immigration, even though they don't say it openly. Public finance challenges. Since the 1950s, spending on state pensions and other benefits for pensioners has steadily increased as a share of national income. Despite raising the state pension age, SBA, to manage costs, We're seeing generosity in pension payments climbing due to the triple lock mechanism, which pushes up pension values over time relative to earnings. By 2050, spending on state pensions and other pensioner benefits is projected to rise from today's 5.9% of national income to 7.6%, a hike that translates to an extra £45 billion a year in today's terms. A significant chunk of this increase, around £24 billion, is directly tied to the triple lock's effect on pensions. But pensions aren't the only concern. Health and social care costs are also set to surge. By 2050, health spending alone is expected to rise to 11.6% of national income, an increase of roughly £88 billion a year. Similarly, spending on social care is anticipated to grow, reaching 2% of national income, or an additional £17 billion annually. These projections highlight the broader context of public finance pressures, not just from pensions but also escalating health and care costs, challenging the sustainability of public finances even further. While the UK's pension system is less reliant on public funding compared to some countries, and the demographic challenges aren't as severe as elsewhere, the future still presents significant fiscal challenges. How the UK navigates these rising costs will be crucial for current and future generations. Impact on future generations. This system's sustainability is under serious threat. If we look at UK's demographic pyramid, the base is narrow and so fewer people will come into the workforce than there are retirees. This will put the tax burden on those working to onerous levels. During most of the post-war period, the government has always run a budget deficit. In the fiscal year 2024 to 2025, this deficit was £87 billion. However, the Office of Budget Responsibility estimates that this will fall over the years. However, when we consider all the government's liabilities into consideration, it becomes increasingly improbable that the government would be able to meet all the liabilities unless taxes are raised or the pensions entitlements are cut.
The situation we're in right now, we refer to as a pensions time bomb. The reason being, we have three sources of pension income: government-provided benefits, employer-provided benefits, and individual savings. But we have a gap between that and what people need at retirement. Since we're already starting at a deficit, the fact that people are living far longer than what those benefits were designed to provide for means that those numbers are diverging at a rapid rate. And as the years progress, those numbers will continue to grow even further apart. And that's why we refer to this as a pensions time bomb, because that gap that we've measured will continue to grow at an alarming rate.
We do not think that the government will be able to maintain its liabilities in its current form. This is why we call this a Ponzi scheme. Without a fundamental redesign, younger workers today might never see the pensions they expect, despite paying into the system for decades. In our view, the most likely course the government will take is to take the triple lock away at some point in the future. If it faces significant difficulties, then the pensions might become means-tested based on each individual needs. The government will also very likely enforce financial repression where the real interest rates are kept negative, and this will reduce the overall government debt to GDP ratio over the long term. The QE program, embarked between 2009 to 2021, is a form of financial repression as the nominal interest rates were kept below the inflation rate. Please watch videos on financial repression and also the video titled, "Will the UK Follow Japan into Economic Stagnation?", where we discuss the outlook for the UK pound. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video to help spread awareness about this pressing issue. Stay informed and see you in the next video.